In the previous video, we looked at the concept of IPAT. Another term I said for impact, the I of the IPAT equation. Another term that is sometimes, or another concept that's sometimes used, is the notion of ecological footprint. So I want to spend a little bit of time understanding that concept. Roughly, it's the throughput generated by the material, energy, and emissions that are associated with consumption. This is a representation of the relative size of the ecological footprint of the average person in each of the regions named, measured by hectares per person. A hectare equals approximately 2.5 acres. It's 100 meters square, just to give you a rough idea of what that means. So on a per person basis, North Americans make by far the largest ecological footprint per person, right? Per person basis. As it turns out, collectively, North America has the largest footprint overall compared to other nations as well. But this chart is looking only at the per person impact or ecological footprint. Interestingly, if we scroll down and look at the individual countries in the lower part of the picture, the United Arab Emirates actually makes a larger ecological footprint per person than the United States. And in the bottom right of this graphic is a graph showing the relationship between the total ecological footprint and the number of planets that footprint would map onto, so to speak. The idea is that humanity has already reached and somewhat exceeded the carrying capacity of the planet, and in that sense is in overshoot, that is, would need more than one planet to continue to meet its needs. The IPAT formula that we talked about in the last video was developed in the 1970s by Paul Ehrlich and others, and as I mentioned, some have suggested that a better term for measuring impact is this idea of ecological footprint. The term ecological footprint was popularized by a study done in 1997 by Wackernagel and colleagues for the Earth Council. It suggests measuring impact by calculating the amount of land, so that was the hectares that we talked about a few minutes ago, by calculating the amount of land that would be required to provide the natural resources consumed by the population of various nations and to absorb their wastes. So it talks both about resources and sinks. In other words, where do the wastes go, and is there the capacity of the earth to absorb those wastes? The net result of their analysis is that the ecological footprint of global society has overshot the Earth's capacity to provide. You've probably heard of this idea. It's the one being expressed when people say that if everyone lived at the level of affluence of Americans, that it would require more than one Earth. Thus, human society, as I said before, is in overshoot. The notion of ecological footprint is related to the notion of carrying capacity. So carrying capacity is the capacity of the Earth to support, to carry the needs of all the life on the planet, and that's usually conceptualized in terms of providing resources as well as having sinks, that is the capacity to absorb wastes. And so overshoot is when the ecological footprint exceeds carrying capacity. Now there are many debates about carrying capacity. Is it measured accurately? There are also debates about ecological footprint. Does it really make sense to measure the impact in terms of the amount of land used? So it's important to remember that all of these measures are models, they're approximations. They're not going to be perfect ways of conceptualizing what it is that we're trying to understand, but they do give us some information, some hook, so to speak, on which to begin our analysis and our understanding. For more information about ecological footprint and how it's calculated, you can go to this website that you see in the URL at the top of this screen. There are many places that you can go to at this website. I've brought up here the model for the world as a whole, sketched out from 1960 to 2008. And then projections from 2008 to 2050 on different possible scenarios, one where we don't really make any changes and continue with business as usual, and the other is where humanity tries to make a significant and rapid reduction in the resources used and the amount of wastes generated. Here I just want to show you two different countries. The first here is the Congo, where the ecological footprint, the red line at the bottom, you can see is below essentially carrying capacity or some measure of carrying capacity, and it remains relatively flat. So you might ask yourself, why is the biocapacity or the carrying capacity declining? And it's probably because, well, it's probably due to many factors, but one of them may be due to the mining of minerals in the Congo, minerals that are used in the production of electronics, which are used by other people on the planet, not necessarily the people in the Congo. So the people in the Congo, their ecological footprint may still be relatively low, even though their region, so to speak, the Congo, is experiencing a declining biocapacity. And just for contrast, here's the United States, which, as you can see, has been exceeding its biocapacity, according to this analysis, since the 1960s. It's gotten worse, and as you can see in this graph, the biocapacity is also declining, although interestingly, if you contrast it to the Congo, you'll notice that it's not declining as significantly as the biocapacity of the Congo is. And then again, for yet a different kind of contrast, here is China, which again, according to this analysis, started out in the 60s with its ecological footprint being below its biocapacity, but with rapid industrialization, the ecological footprint is now vastly exceeding the biocapacity of China. If you're interested, you can calculate your own ecological footprint at this site, and I will also post the link to this on the course Blackboard site. Or here's another website, myfootprint.org, that you could also use to calculate your own ecological footprint. And again, these links will be posted on the course Blackboard site. Again, just to remind you, there are criticisms of the idea of the ecological footprint, just as there are criticisms of the IPAT equation. But I want you to just be familiar with the notion that people are attempting to measure humanity's impact and get a sense of how serious the problem is. So for now, we just want to get familiar with these concepts and roughly what they're trying to look at.